You're better off watching a snail doing the 1,000 meter sprint at the Olympics.
I mean,
how this won so many awards and earned so many good reviews is just beyond me.
Well,
they eat this up.
I mean, there's a lot in there.
If you like watching a freight train coming at you in very, very, very slow motion, then this might just be for you. That was a 1-star review from IMDb. Hello and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Ryan, joined as always by Steven.
Hello.
And Andrew.
Wow, you switched it up. Hi.
I mixed it up.
Subversion of it.
No, we're not. This is not a Rian Johnson podcast.
Yeah. And in today's episode, we'll be reviewing Michael Mann's 1995 cops and robber thriller, Heat.
Cops and robber thriller?
Cops and robbers.
Is that really the genre?
That's so fun fact. When it came out, a lot of the reviews that were not kind to it referred to it as just another simple cops and robbers movie. And I was like, it's like it didn't come out in the 30s. What are y'all talking about?
Yeah,
that's
like
weird.
Yeah,
you'll never get me.
It was 95. Who's reviewing this movie?
Whenever they're shooting their guns, they're like moving their hands,
making the
They're
sounds
just behind
with
a
their
crate.
mouths.
Pew, pew, pew. Anyways, before we get into our thoughts on Heat, we thought that since this movie has such a big cast, a lot of great cast.
Who's
here.
who of the 90s?
Absolutely huge cast.
Yeah, huge
honestly.
cast. So we're going to go around and we're going to talk about some of our favorite media starring some members of the cast of Heat. So why don't we start with Steven? What do you got?
Oh, I am safe from being stolen. Let's go. So I chose Val Kilmer.
Mm-hmm.
A good choice.
Went with Tombstone, 1993.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen this in a while. I've been thinking about it, though. So
It's actually been a really long time since I've seen
this
Tombstone.
topic came
It's been a
up,
while
and
for
I
me
was
too,
like,
but it's very good.
I'm in.
I know it's good in my heart.
Does that sound like something what we have to review?
We should probably put it on the pile.
I'm for it.
Put it on the pile.
So we'll
I'm your
throw-
huckleberry.
We'll throw down a synopsis.
Yeah.
Successful lawman's plans to retire anonymously in Tombstone, Arizona are disrupted by the kind of outlaws he was famous for eliminating.
Oh, is this? Yeah. This is the one where he comes back and then
Spoilers.
Yeah, well, so this...
I'm thinking of a different one. Never
This
mind.
stars
Okay.
Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp, Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday, Sam Elliott as Virgil Earp, and we got Bill Paxton as Morgan Earp.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like when people are like, hey, we're going to watch a Western,
Tombstone comes to mind.
Tombstone is top 5 on the list of, a Western. Right?
Another great one is 3:10 to Yuma. Has no one that is in this film.
We're talking about the remake here, right?
Yeah. Well, even the original one's still good.
The
but
original's good, but the remake is
phenomenal.
much better.
Yeah.
No, I love this. I saw this in theaters, which was maybe I was maybe just slightly too young for
I was going to
this.
say probably a little bit too
It
early.
definitely
it's fine.
kicked off a huge phase with me and a across the street friend who were like, we were all in on.
Yeah.
Like, I never really played like Cowboys and Indians as a kid.
Right.
And then this hit and it was like, I want to be the sheriff of some dusty middle of the nowhere town so badly.
So like I remember like my granddad was really into like John Wayne westerns.
Yeah,
so I
of
saw a
course.
lot of those growing up. And then my uncle and my mom and dad were into Clint Eastwood westerns.
So you got
I knew that's what
Good,
you were
Bad,
So
gonna
I
say.
saw
Yeah.
Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And I remember when Tombstone came out, that and Unforgiven, both of them being like, this is a modern, in the 90s
modern
Western.
take of a
This is like
Western.
yeah. So I remember there was a lot of hype around Tombstone. I didn't see it in theaters. I watched it. I rented it as soon as it came out, though.
Of course, then you always had the the frozen pizza.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all you think about every time you see that in the freezer aisle. Tombstone.
That was the movie.
Did they do any
Good-
cross
it's a good
promotion?
movie.
Because if they didn't, they were fools.
was Tombstone even a brand back then?
Oh,
I
yes.
think it was.
I don't know if Tombstone's a brand now, if I'm honest.
No, I'm pretty sure they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like there was some cross promotion there.
You got to.
And you just slap
yeah,
Sam
there's
Elliott's
no reason
mustache
not
on
to.
that label and like, let's go.
Yeah.
It could be illegal if you didn't. All right, Andrew, what's your pick?
Okay, so I picked Dennis Haysbert.
Oh, okay.
So he very bit role in this film.
yeah.
Oh, so yeah, you reached deep in the
Yeah.
ensemble
Well,
cast.
I didn't want to pick Robert De Niro or Al Pacino.
It felt too
or
easy,
too
right?
easy. So I Dennis Haysbert, and I'm going with 2001's 24, the TV show.
Oh yeah.
I was going, Major League, Major League, Major
Well,
League.
he's been in so much stuff, just bit parts and everything like that. He's also directed The Unit.
He sells a lot of insurance.
He does
did
sell
for
a
a
lot of
while.
insurance. But I
I missed this reference.
The
What?
Allstate. Isn't that what he was? Allstate?
No.
No. No, he was All-State.
Was
yeah,
it? Okay, yeah. Never mind.
But so I know him from 24. Like just as
you met him, you knew him on set. Like what?
As President and Senator David Palmer, who he's basically in 81 episodes of 24, which is a whole lot.
He's a mainstay.
Yes, yeah. He's definitely he shows up a lot in definitely the first 2 seasons, obviously, because that's like the when he's Senator and President. But then he shows up in later seasons throughout each season or whatever. And one, he's just a fantastic actor.
Yeah, he's really good.
He
does.
He's good. He really plays the I don't like the kind of like honest man really well.
Yeah.
And like even in Heat, like again bit part, but like you feel bad for the guy,
right?
Because like he's really trying to do good, and then he kind of gets sucked back into it.
He gets kind of stuck in the cycle of you don't escape your past kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And before we go any further, I will give a
synopsis?
If you've never seen 24 and you don't know what it is, counterterrorism agent Jack Bauer, Kiefer Sutherland, races against the clock to subvert terrorist plots and save his nation from ultimate disaster. And that's basically every season. The whole conceit of the show, though, is it takes place in real time. So they have a clock that ticks down that is very memorable as you get throughout the show.
I've basically barely seen the show, and I can still picture that clock in my
and
timer.
The cool thing is that they even take into account the commercial breaks that would happen for the show. Like
so they count for the whole time.
They count for the whole time. And the whole season takes place in 24 hours. So if it starts at 12 a.m., it's going to end at 12 a.m.
Which that's a fun play on the idea of like when you have in a movie where they'll say, oh, they'll be here in 10 minutes. And then actually in 10 minutes, movie time is when it hits. As opposed to like, the bomb goes off in 30 seconds. So 6 minutes later, we're still in slow-mo.
Now, do you have 8 episodes where someone is just asleep for like...
No, well, so basically like, what'll happen is...
You got to understand, Kiefer Sutherland doesn't sleep.
No, he doesn't sleep. He doesn't go to the bathroom. But...
there's no time. The bomb!
This whole episode, he's just behind a closed door.
So that's the thing is like there are definitely some liberties with how they tell the story. And commercial breaks definitely help with that too, because there are definitely times
I took a nap in the closet during the commercial break.
He's coming out of the bathroom at the end of the commercial break.
It honestly really just depends on the story that they're telling. Like but pretty much most of the time, Jack Bauer or Kiefer Sutherland is just on. The whole time, but there's definitely like you're not following him all 60 minutes of the episode.
So do they detail like his methamphetamine addiction to account for him just going for 24 hours?
I mean, so in season 3, and this is not really a spoiler, it happens in the first episode, but he is addicted to heroin at the beginning.
Nailed it.
Figures. Just because they basically had to go undercover, and he had to get addicted for it. Yeah. But so if you ever thought about getting into 24, I highly recommend the first 5 seasons.
And then stop.
And then once you get there, if you're really committed,
this is 5 whole days of counterterrorism. Yes, 5 seasons.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy to think about, actually.
But so basically, season 6 and 7. No. It's season 1 through 4. Sorry.
Come on, now.
Seasons 5 and 6 were during the writers' strike.
Oh, okay. So they definitely suffered.
But then seasons 7 and 8 are pretty fantastic.
Pick it back up.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's a lot of shows I feel like from that era that kind of had that happen where the writer's strike hit.
Lost was tough.
A couple of seasons just kind of went to the wayside.
Just disappeared.
So I remember when 24 first came out, like the idea behind it was such a cool idea. That it takes place exactly an hour, 24 hours. For the season.
It's a really good concept.
But I watched like the first 2 episodes and then missed one, and was too poor to have a TiVo or a DVR back then. So I didn't see it, and I was like, well, I don't want to watch episode 4 till I see 3. And so then I had to wait, and then I just never rented it on DVD when it came out. So I never went back other than maybe it was like 3 episodes, but I was like early season 1. I was interested, and then just never went back because I got off that one time.
And there are a couple like pretty glaringly high plot holes in the first, or I think it's the second season where you're just like, wait, how did she get here? Kind of thing. But honestly, like overall, the acting's really good. The action's really good. It's very visceral and very realistic. This obviously takes place, unfortunately, in a post 9/11 world.
Yeah.
So
it's a darker, grittier.
It is, and there's a lot of stereotypes that do happen. throughout the show.
We have a lot of Middle Eastern terrorism.
Yeah.
And there's really very rarely any kind of deviation from that. So just,
it was hot. It was hot right then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, Ryan, what do you got?
I'm going to go with the Robert De Niro deep cut.
I knew you were going to pick Robert De Niro.
Well, I had another Val Kilmer one, but Steven took Val Kilmer.
I should have taken Robert De Niro just so you could have panicked.
Right.
No, then I would have just picked one. I'm going to go with 1998's Ronin. Have either of you seen this movie?
I have not seen this, no.
Oh, man. Okay. So Ronin's not a perfect movie, but it's a very good crime thriller.
Okay.
In the same vein as Heat on a lot of levels. But it has one of the best car chases, I think, in movie history. You're right in the middle of it.
Really?
It's fantastic. Like the choreography, the way it's shot, everything's incredible. So a quick synopsis for those that may not know about Ronin. Ronin is the Japanese word used for samurai without a master. In this case, the Ronin are outcast specialists of every kind whose services are available to everyone for the right money.
Some mercs, yeah.
Yeah. So Deirdre hires several Ronin to form a team in order to retrieve an important suitcase from a man who's about to sell it to the Russians. So it's a very nebulous, like...
It's a MacGuffin.
We've been hired and we're not supposed to ask questions type of situation.
You don't get paid to ask questions.
Yeah, right. And so after the mission has been completed successfully, the suitcase immediately gets switched by a member of the team who seems to work it into his own pocket. The complex net of everyone tricking everyone begins to surface slowly and deadly. So it's the typical idea of like someone on the team is a traitor.
And then like got to uncover where it went.
Right.
Yeah.
You got Robert De Niro, Jean Reno, Stellan Skarsgård. I think in the first movie I ever saw Stellan Skarsgård in. Sean Bean and Natasha.
I'm already for
we got a good cast here. Yeah.
We should check it out. Like again, it's kind of a.
How long is it?
It's not 3 hours.
Okay, this is an important question now.
It is longer though. It is on the longer side, and it does have, to me, my biggest
2 hours and 59 minutes.
Is it? Yeah, it's exactly
technically correct.
It might be. I don't want to say it's not because it probably is, but it definitely has some pacing issues towards like there's a couple parts where things kind of slow down, but dead center of the movie is just an incredible car chase scene. Like, if nothing else, we should just watch that on YouTube. And then, like,
are you ready? You want to know how long Ronin is?
Is it 2 hours and 45 minutes?
It's exactly 2 hours.
Okay, good.
Oh, that's actually not that long at all. Yeah.
So I almost, because Robert De Niro is here, I almost was like, do I just pitch Stardust again?
You could have. I thought you
triple
might.
down. I considered
when I was looking through his
filmography.
Yeah. Well, that would be one of those where Ryan's like, I'm going first because I'm doing Tombstone. I'm like, we're doing Stardust again.
My Val Kilmer pick was Top Secret, by the way. Look it up. It's fantastic. We may review that one. Moving on.
Oh, okay.
Is Top Secret the name of the thing or the Top Secret?
It's the name of the movie.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either.
Is it Top Secret because you won't tell us?
Is he saying he doesn't want to say it live on air
comedy,
because we might review it? Or I don't... Is it classified?
You figure it out. Did I take the briefcase? No one knows. All right, so let's get on to our thoughts on Heat. First, we'll start with a synopsis. Master criminal Neil McCauley is planning one last big heist before retiring. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Hannah attempts to track down McCauley as he deals with the chaos in his own life. McCauley and Hannah discover a mutual respect, even as they try to thwart each other's plans.
Okay.
He was released December 15th, 1995. Good year. It was directed and written by Michael Mann, who directed The Last of the Mohicans, The Insider, Collateral. You ever seen that?
Oh,
with Tom Cruise?
Fantastic.
Really
it's got Tom, if it has Tom Cruise in it, Andrew,
I assumed he had. That's why I pointed directly at him.
He's got a man crush.
And Ali.
The Will Smith. Oh, the Will Smith. Yeah.
Muhammad Ali biopic.
You like Ali, like Prince Ali.
You're right.
What?
And there was a bunch of other stuff.
He was also that.
Those are the ones that like really stood out to me. It's like good.
Well, he was Genie, but
yeah. Well, in a remake, in the film. We don't count the remake.
He was in the film.
We don't count.
Music is by Elliot Goldenthal, who he did Interview with the Vampire, A Time to Kill, Batman and Robin.
Okay.
And Across the Universe, the Beatles.
We're doing really well for there.
There's a bunch of other stuff, but I pulled the ones that I was like, for sure they've heard of these. You know, and I got to Batman and Robin. I was like, I'm putting that one in there.
I loved how it was like a roller coaster. Like, oh.
Yeah, I took you on a journey. And obviously, big cast on this one, starring Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, John Voight, Tom Sizemore, Ashley Judd, and a lot more people.
Yep.
I don't want to list everybody.
And we have like a
Dennis Haysbert,
14-year-old
Natalie Portman, Wes Studi.
See, I was wondering if Andrew was going to be like, well, Natalie Portman's in it, so
Star
I'm doing
Wars.
Revenge of the Sith or something.
No, that would be such a weird
Nerd.
choice. Yeah, I chose someone that had more than like 2 speaking lines.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. So let's get to our overall thoughts on Heat. Let's go with Andrew first.
Okay, so this is a long film.
Yeah, it's a long
Oh
movie.
my gosh.
And what I had no really knowledge of this going into the film prior to basically watching it. But I knew that Al Pacino was in it and Robert De Niro was in it. And I was like, I think Val Kilmer's in it. And that was it. Like, that's pretty much as far as I go.
Okay.
And everyone has always told me, oh, man, the heists are really good.
Yeah.
And the film, it's just like a good cop drama.
Cops and robbers.
Cops and robbers.
Get it right.
I think that the film probably could have been 45 minutes shorter, and it would have been the same film.
Easily.
Disagree with both of you. Continue. See, I don't mind long movies, though. Like, I'll watch a 3-hour movie.
I don't mind long movies at all.
Yeah. Again, we have done multiple long movies prior to hitting this one. This is the only one that I've got actual complaints about the runtime.
It did feel like, so there was a couple like story threads that happened throughout the film that it felt a little superfluous, where it's like, well, we don't really need this. I mean, it adds more to the characters.
No spoilers now.
Yeah,
we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
I'm just letting the listeners know. We're still before the spoiler wall.
Now, but that's kind of like my initial thoughts of just the overall film. However, there are, I'll say 3 sequences in this film that are visceral action.
Fantastic stuff.
Never seen anywhere else in film.
Yeah.
There are some really good action scenes of heists and everything like that in other films that I've watched.
Yeah.
They don't even come close to this.
So let me ask this, and again, no spoilers, so we're before the spoiler wall, but do you see the DNA from this movie and other stuff that has come out?
I mean, Christopher Nolan literally just rips the heist off of for Dark Knight.
So there's a on the special features, there's a panel that they did in like 2016 at the Academy Awards that Christopher Nolan hosts, and he brings out Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Michael Mann. And when he comes out, he's like, I just want to thank you. Christopher Nolan is very British because my entire Batman trilogy was basically inspired by Heat. And and he just goes basically on like a 10-minute, just like, this movie changed my life, and they're all just sitting there nodding, like, are you going to introduce this? Can we ask some questions in a panel here? Yeah, it's great.
But so there's a bank heist in the film.
Yeah,
that is, it's mind-blowingly good.
Yeah.
Everything about that sequence is great.
Yeah, it's like 10 out of 10 great.
It just took you a long time to get there, and you still got a ways to go after it happens.
Like once you finish that, you're like, oh, I'm in the finale, and you still got like 45 minutes.
No, it's very much an inflection point, I think is the way to think of it in the story.
And which is totally fine. It's just like, I just felt that there were definitely some pacing issues. Like, I did enjoy like the kind of like dour crime drama that was happening.
Yeah.
Of Al Pacino's character basically not coming to terms, but coming to terms, I guess, with a failing marriage and like all these other kind of like elements that are happening.
He's such a committed
he's
cop.
He's a lifer cop
that he's destroying other elements of his life for it.
Yeah. And because like that character drama and stuff was very good.
Yeah.
And I think the performances for everyone's really good. The music's actually pretty interesting because it's kind of like this was like before Shepard tones became a thing. So they just like had like ticking stuff in the background at all times.
But I think too, it kind of like it doesn't do that thing that a lot of movies post Ocean's 11 did, where it's just like everything sounds like a casino heist.
Yeah.
And this has its own kind of heist feel, but it doesn't. And again, maybe it's because it was kind of the 90s, but before a lot of big heist movies had come out. But it didn't have like that super generic, like when I think of like the the double bass, doom, 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 like there's no
The thing too with the like specifically with the action sequences, this didn't feel like an action movie. This felt like a professional like crew just doing the job.
I have a lot of info on that after this spoiler wall.
But I mean, overall, I think I would definitely watch the film again just so I could watch those scenes again.
Just those scenes,
But it's one of those things where it's like I want to have the journey to get there. I don't want to just like go and like cherry pick it from the film and watch it,
right?
Because I want to experience the whole thing again. And maybe if I watched it again, I'd probably maybe pick up on a little bit more stuff.
Yeah, I think you could show it to somebody cold, just like some of the heist scenes and some of the action scenes, and they could appreciate it. But to have that build up,
the bigger context,
the context does help. I think. Steven, what did you think?
I mean, I thought it was good. So I do want to preface, right? Because we have reviewed several long movies at this point.
Yeah.
And I think in all those reviews we said, I'm sure I could find a way to cut 25 minutes. And I think for this movie versus those, I would penalize this one more just because it felt like what you would cut would be easier. Like with like Avatar or the Batman, a lot of times we said, well, scenes just kind of went a little long. And if you started trimming 10 seconds here, 15 seconds here, like over the course of the movie, you could find 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
This one, when I look at it, I'm like, there's like 8 plot lines. And if we dropped like 3 of them, they wouldn't really alter the core of the story. And they could save us like 30 minutes.
Sure.
Pretty easily. So I do want to kind of, just preface that with, because that is one of my dings here is that.
So it's not just that it's a long movie,
not
it's
just
that you feel like there's some plot
there's some
threads.
bloat.
They're just kind of going everywhere. And it's not that the movie is long, because like if it's long because you want to give me some deep depths, like we really want to deep dive into his failing relationship, and we want to deep dive into Neil's other side of his philosophies and stuff, and we want to stick with those. And like these are the 2 core pillars on which we build the film.
Yeah.
Go hog wild. If we want to do that, because it's not just that it is long. You hit pause and you go, oh man, there's an hour and a half left on this. I thought thought we were about to be done. But also that just there are scenes in it where you constantly are like, oh, this feels really long. But we have a couple of really good heists in here.
Yeah.
A couple of really good, an extremely professional crew.
Yes.
And it always felt like they had guns, not because they were in there because they were sloppy and were going to kill people, but because it was just, hey, if something goes south,
we need to have the
armed.
firepower. Yeah.
And then inevitably it does go south, and then we go from there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, our climax with the bank heist, that whole sequence is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
The thing like with them kind of having guns and stuff like that, and whenever I say like professional, there in a lot of other action films and stuff, you can maybe see like, I'll say like a level of hesitation or level of trepidation of like choosing violence.
Right.
Where these guys, like the second that it flips, where they're like, we're not going to hurt anyone, we're not interested in that, but until it happens, now we're on.
Yeah.
Now we have to deal with this.
Yeah. We'll get into that in the spoiler wall. Because, there are a couple of flip switch moments.
Yeah,
man,
we're dancing around a lot of stuff here. But
Ryan, what about you?
I mean, so I obviously love this movie. I think my thing with it, I completely agree with what you guys are saying, and like the runtime is long. It's long. It is a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think I would cut a second out of it, but that's simply because I think I've seen it so many times that it's
like
precious.
Like you're ready for those beats.
Every scene, and because there are a lot of tangents where we get to know minor characters that could be cut, that I would feel terrible if they cut, because I appreciate specific
you've
characters, because now I've seen this one guy that we'll talk about after the spoiler wall, that like you get to see his situation, see what he's going through, and all this that leads up to his eventual
decisions.
his decisions. And if you cut that out and he just becomes a functional piece of the puzzle to move the plot along, I feel like that hurts
development.
it. Yeah. But and maybe this is something that I would be curious if you guys ever do rewatch it, is like, do you feel the same way after seeing it twice, knowing like what's in it and what's the length and stuff? Because I saw it, I rented it as soon as it was available to rent when I was in 95. I didn't get to see it in theater, so it was probably 96, early 96 when it came out, and was just blown away.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, obviously being a kid, not understanding enough of the depth of the relationship side of stuff.
The interplay of what's going on here.
And so for me, I remember thinking it was a little bit long back then, because I was like, just get to more action. What are we doing here?
Like,
hold the guns out again. Let's go.
Because I don't think I fully understood what it was. And like, I remember the first time I showed it to my wife, she was really surprised, because her perception of it this whole time was that it was just like a action movie.
Heart-pumping action movie.
Yeah.
And like a Point Break, or like something like that.
Got the heat.
Or like Speed. It was like that, but it's not. It's really like a character drama that has
a heist in it.
Crime elements sprinkled throughout it. So that was a surprise for her the first time we watched it a few years ago when she saw it. And so for me, it's very hard for me to remove myself from like having watched it over the years. So again, I completely see what you're saying with like the runtime, for sure. I just personally love all 3 hours of it.
Of course.
I wouldn't change anything.
That's totally, I mean, like, I love Titanic. Like,
Right.
like that's a
See,
great.
that's
like,
when I think you can cut. Some.
Yeah, you can absolutely cut a lot
There's
of
so
stuff
much
out of
to be
that
cut
film.
for that movie. You just sink the boat and you call it a day.
But there are definitely some scenes in that film where I'm just like, oh yeah, here's the film where here's the scene where like he just does
XYZ
this.
happens.
Yeah.
So,
now,
go ahead. Yeah.
Going back to your earlier statement about the the DNA from Heat in
Other
later
stuff.
releases, right?
Yeah.
So something we recently reviewed, Kaleidoscope,
Mm-hmm.
that has a lot of this feel.
A little bit, yeah.
Much more so than what would be like a 2000s heist where it's, Ocean's 11,
Right.
Logan Lucky, those kinds of things. It feels like it's reaching back into the 90s and found like Heat or something like that.
Yeah, because this film does not have any comedy in it at all.
And it's not it's not like, oh well, it's going to be happy or we're just
no one wins here.
Happy go lucky. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
It knows its mission statement. It sticks to it pretty consistently.
But yeah, there you can definitely see the DNA, basically go through so many other films and there's fun little Easter eggs in Dark Knight. Because the bank manager is the dude that they steal stuff from in this movie and stuff. It's great.
For me, just to wrap up my thoughts, I think there are just a few scenes in this movie that will always stick with me. They always have.
Yeah.
And they are some of my favorite scenes in movies, period. And we'll get to all that after the spoiler wall because I don't
You
don't
dance around too
give
much.
away actual plot points.
So, okay.
We'll see when they were in this doing that,
Would you watch this movie again, Andrew?
100%.
Steven, would you watch this movie again?
I'm a maybe.
Okay.
And it's because of specific scenes that, again, we'll get into in the spoiler
there
wall.
are some brutal...
Without any foreknowledge of where certain storylines were going to go, there are a couple things that hit a lot harder than I needed them to.
Okay.
So that I have...
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
I would definitely say... have a little awareness of what it is before you get into it. If we haven't given you that at this point, I don't know.
It is emphatically an adult story.
Yes. 100%.
Do not watch this with kids.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so next question is: would you recommend this movie?
To someone that likes these kind of films and someone that is strapped in for a very drama or high drama adult film. There are some very graphic scenes throughout the film that you definitely want to be prepared for.
Yeah. Steven, would you recommend this film?
For the right person, right?
Yeah.
If you are, dark and gritty, heist, the seedy underbelly.
If you wear a trench coat and you're just real sad all the time.
If you are 3 dirty raccoons in a trench coat, this is the film for you.
You're trying to buy R-rated tickets when you're stacked on top of each other.
This is the kind of film, especially now, right? You look at it and you see, really young Natalie Portman. We have just all these other actresses. You're constantly doing, the Leo pointing at the screen.
Yep.
Oh, it's this person. Oh, it's that person.
That was like the first 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah, that was me too. I was just like, so that aspect too is fun. So I think if you are, in for, the rated R adult story, not happy-go-lucky kind of heist character drama, then this is, it won a lot of awards for a reason, right? There's some meat in here.
It checks a lot of boxes.
It sure does.
Yeah.
Ryan?
Number one, obviously I would rewatch it. I've owned this on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and now 4K Blu-ray. And I still got multiple copies on the shelf. I'm like, do I need another Heat? I need another Heat.
I was going to make fun of you if you were like, I keep having to replace my copy. I was like, you're the one putting all the waste in the landfill.
No, I still have all of them.
Your shelf is the landfill.
I can't even watch some of them, but I have them. Obviously I'd rewatch it. And again, I think you guys hit it on the head. This is not a movie I recommend to just anybody, obviously.
You're like, oh, you like action films? Go watch Heat.
Yeah. But I think there are definitely a subset of action fans that I think I would definitely recommend this to. There's several, members of my friend group that I know their taste, and I'm like, you got to watch this, And there was one of them specifically after we watched The Dark Knight, that he loved that movie, which is a very good movie also. But I was like, hey, you need to check out Heat. It's not the same film at all, but you'll see the inspirations.
Don't go looking for Batman in the shadows.
But he specifically was talking about the opening of The Dark Knight, and I was like, listen, if you like that opening, cool. Check out this movie. You'll enjoy it. And he did. He liked it a lot.
So if you feel that we are bringing the heat, I have to.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish it.
If you feel that we're bringing the heat to your ears, I guess, whatever.
Nice.
You can absolutely go to our website, spoilersdependentpodcast.com. It has links to a whole bunch of stuff, Discord, all of our other episodes, newest episode, and social, everything like that. You should absolutely go check it out because it's great.
It's got that heat.
It's got that heat.
And if you want to engage in discourse with us that's not just listening to us and pretending we're your friends, then join us on Discord. Wow. Link on the website. We talk about all kinds of stuff, hobbies, other stuff we're watching.
What we're listening to.
Andrew throws down some kind of weeb playlist like at least once a week.
At least once.
At least.
He said weeb, but not weed, by the way. Just to clarify.
That's a B like a boy.
Yeah. And you want to chill out? I got it for you.
Got the vibes.
I got it for you. Also, if you're not following us on social, go ahead and do that because we post once a week about what we're going to cover next week on the podcast and where you can watch it. So definitely follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, we try and keep it as updated as possible because it's, we want you to listen in and watch it with us.
Yeah.
Because it's, we like what we watch, right? Most of the time.
Most of the time. And we want you to like or dislike what we watch too.
We're going to absolutely drop the bomb. Like, where to watch? Book of Boba Fett Season 2.
And it's just blank.
You don't want to watch this.
Don't. No.
Guys, don't ever get committed to any facts that you can't drop at 30 seconds or not if you see the spoiler wall coming around the corner, okay?
Okay.
We're past the spoiler wall.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about heat.
Okay.
He lost me there. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
I was lost.
That probably had to be a line from the film.
It was.
It kind of was, but I butchered it halfway through
He butchered it. He butchered it
I butchered it pretty badly because I was trying to change the words in media res in my mind.
You got the 30 seconds part down
and I was like,
dropping
what does he say?
Those are words that are coming out of his
Those are
mouth.
words. Anyways.
Spoiler wall. We're past
Spoiler wall's
it.
donezo.
Ryan's floundering, but he's going to pick it right back up.
I'm just still sinking over here. Okay. Quick bit of trivia.
Yeah.
And then we can jump into some spoilery discussion. The inspiration for Heat came from when Michael Mann became friends with a detective from Chicago who hunted down and ended up killing the actual Neil McCauley in the 60s.
Okay.
So Neil McCauley was a real criminal.
Oh, weird.
He served time in Alcatraz, and this cop that he befriended like did a lot of the same stuff that happens in Heat. It's very, very loosely
of course.
based on.
Yeah.
However, two big elements from his real life story ended up in the movie that were kind of remixed, but they were the diner scene and the scene where Neil realizes something is wrong during the stakeout.
Oh,
and they just,
yeah.
Both of those happened in real life, and the story was so impactful. Michael's like, I got to put that in.
The rough and rumble nature of it fits Chicago in the 60s way better than LA in the 90s. So I was like, man, LA is real accepting of these dudes just running around with M16s.
Yeah, and like I think too, another thing with Heat was like Michael Mann. So he had the script for Heat in the 80s.
Yeah,
and he had been doing ride-alongs with police for like years.
Oh,
he'd been like
trying to get the
researching
vibe,
stuff.
The feel.
But see, in the 80s, this is pre Last of the Mohicans, which is what 92, I believe. Sounds right.
91 or 92. Yeah.
So in the 80s, he was a nobody, and so he knew that he would never get this
get the what he needed. Yeah.
So he took about 40% of the script and made a cheap TV movie called LA Takedown that they hoped would turn into a TV series that would then be able to get into the rest of the script and kind of like go, but it never got picked up.
Last Mohicans is 92.
92? Okay. I thought that sounded right. Yeah. So anyways, that was like precursor to all this. Was like he had all that going on. The amount of like prep they did for this movie is insane, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. I'll throw some more Heat facts at you.
Heat facts.
Heat facts. Okay, so now that we're past the spoiler wall, anything you want to mention before we get into the breakdown of spectacle, performance, and all that stuff?
I mean, not, like anything that I'm going to like really bring
Andrew
up.
Wants into spectacle as soon as possible.
No, I mean, not necessarily.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about some
Pacow. Man, the echoes.
Okay, so let me jump into the audio of that. So we're talking about the bank heist, obviously.
The fallout,
the shootout
of
in
the
downtown LA.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, man.
So there's a lot of trivia about that scene specifically. So like one of them specifically with the pacow sound, right? So on recording, they had like several microphones set up to capture the blanks, you know, as they were shooting them or whatever. and they were just so loud that people on set said that the shots would ring out for 8 or 9 seconds because they would just echo off all the skyscrapers. Up and like up the skyscraper and then back down the skyscraper, right? And so when they started editing the film, the audio editor guys did what they always did. They took all the natural sound out and they put sound effects in of guns. And so when they played that first rough draft for Michael Mann, he hated it.
Yeah.
He was like, what is this? What is this?
He was there. He heard the...
Yeah, he was like, it was so loud. And they were like, well, but we, did the thing. Again, that's another thing I think a lot of people forget about the 90s is like right in the mid-90s, it was kind of an inflection point for a lot of production techniques and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, you just didn't use nat sound a lot of the time. You always dubbed a lot of stuff, especially sound effects, like Foley.
Definitely guns.
Yeah, like you watch a movie old enough, like you'll hear the footsteps, and it's a dude with shoes on his hands, like on a
flopping around like he's a horse.
You have those like there's just certain moments where it's like
just Monty Python.
Yeah,
all day.
you know what I mean? So he's like, no, put the original sound back in there. So I'm sure they did a lot of audio editing to it. But the sound that you hear in the movie is the natural microphones picking up the actual blanks going off.
So pretty much the whole time for all of the shooting scenes, all I can really think about in most movies where people are firing guns in close quarters, like they're piled inside this car and they're firing 3 different directions out with like M4s or M16s, and all I can think is every one of you is deaf as can all get out,
right? Like gotta be,
and like not like ears ringing, like permanently, like your eardrums have ruptured. It is such a contained space, and they made use of that at the start of the film. So I thought maybe some of that would come back in. No, they just carry on like normal. I was like,
we're good. We're professionals.
Yeah.
So one thing they did, in prep for that scene specifically, but really the movie,
they let everyone in LA know.
Well, they obviously did that. Well, so
actual LAPD responded to the call.
To prep for the movie, they all did live fire training with live ammunition.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah. And again,
that's like a Keanu Reeves kind of thing these days,
which again,
it's rare.
These days, it's more common to see like like a Keanu Reeves, John Wick type thing where they do actual ammunition training on a range.
Even that, when he first did it, right, for the first John Wick, was kind of almost like groundbreaking.
Right.
Like, he's a good shooter.
Yeah.
What? And this shows up.
The guns.
Wow.
Well, a lot of the guys in the movie, especially, I know Pacino, I heard an interview from him. He was like, he had done weapons training with blanks before.
Yeah.
But none of them, I don't think.
Were live ammunition.
Yeah, had done like, for a movie, training with live ammunition. And so Michael Mann basically recreated and reblocked the entire scene in LA using plywood on like a shooting range in like Texas or somewhere.
Of course, why would it not be Texas, right?
And all of them had to go through every motion shooting real ammunition, not together. I don't think they shot.
You can't. I feel like they just kill each other doing that.
But each person, one by one, went through on the actual shooting range and blocked out the same distance and everything, so that because they were like, we're going to be basically pressed for time when we get and close down downtown LA.
Yeah, you have an afternoon. That's it.
Well, it took multiple days to shoot it, but like it was like part of multiple days.
Yeah.
They didn't have like the whole day.
They get like an hour. You can shut this road down for an hour and get out.
That was just, I thought, like a crazy amount of like prep, but it shows in the movie, I think, in that shootout scene right there during the heist that like they knew what they were doing. To which point, Val Kilmer was told by a Marines weapon instructor that he shows the part of the shootout heist where Val Kilmer changes the clip really fast to his cadets and says, if you cannot change a clip faster than a Hollywood actor, you're out of the Marine Corps. And Val Kilmer was very proud.
Well, I wouldn't be.
Oh, yeah.
Because that happened in the take. Because, you saw how quick that was.
Yeah.
It was like, bang, bang, like changes the clip real fast. So it's at least one Marine instructor. I'm not saying that a whole Marine Corps uses it. But
so what's funny is in a post 9/11, post Iraq War era, watching that, all I could think about was how slow it was, and that nowadays you would have the mags taped top to bottom, and you just flip it because that's something that's been picked up
since then. Yeah.
But obviously back then, you just drop and reload.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But it was funny watching that.
I'll definitely say dropping and reloading looks way cooler.
It looks way cooler.
Absolutely, yes.
So let's talk more about spectacle. So let's discuss the high shootout while we're still on it. That's some tidbits and trivia. Andrew, what did you think of the shootout?
I mean, like it's so we have like a Sonos sound system and everything. We have two speakers, the center and then the sub. And
Steven's clock radio sounds really good too.
It was very loud.
I wasn't even in like the zone because I was actually building a model on the table, and it was just wild. Like it was so good. I've never been that impressed by sound from a film ever.
Really?
Ever.
That's high praise.
Yeah. No, I honestly, that was way up there in terms of just being in that moment of this is live fire in a tight environment,
100%,
tense, and there's just rounds flying everywhere. Like,
and it was absolutely one of those moments where like because I was watching the film and I was like, this I know stuff's about to go down, but in the second that Val Kilmer sees the cops, he just starts firing, and I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. And then the second that they, obviously, Dennis Haysbert's character, he dies.
Yeah.
And then they get out of the car and they are just walking down the street, just firing into this line of police cars.
Going.
Oh,
yeah.
Just, oh man, like it was phenomenal.
The sheer number of mags.
Oh yeah.
Used. Like towards the end of the firefight when they kind of pan over all the cop cars and there's just bullet holes everywhere. It's like, man, this is so many bullets.
Yeah. Well, and like we haven't even talked about the opening heist scene. Yet either, which is still fantastic.
Let's dip into that.
But like before even honestly, outside of the action, I thought the editing for this film was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like there are some great cuts and there's some really good like back and forth, especially like we mentioned it earlier whenever Robert De Niro's character Neil basically realizes that it's a sting operation for the like the little mini heist that they're doing.
Oh yeah, right.
And
in the
then
middle.
he's just staring at Al Pacino's character, and like obviously they don't see each other.
Yeah,
but they're just staring at each other.
It's a dark corner staring at an enclosed vehicle, but you have that IR of his face.
Yeah.
And they're basically just making eye contact.
Yeah. And like that right there, like that brings you so far into the scene.
And the tension and the way that like, Pacino's looking dead into the camera, and then it cuts to De Niro looking dead into the camera. And then it cuts back to Pacino looking in the camera. Then it's the IR of De Niro looking dead into the camera,
and you can
it's like
and you can feel like the seething of like the gears turning in Neil's mind of like there's something not right here.
Something's wrong. Well, also I like that exchange, and it's more plot probably, but I like the exchange of why we're not going in to go get him right now, Captain. Like, what are we getting? Breaking and entering 6 months? Right. That's not what we're here for. We're here for a put him away for life. You know.
Yeah.
But outside of that, the two action scenes were really good. I thought the use of light in the final, like the finale of them,
take that point. Come on. Come on.
Build off of it. The use of light was good, Steven.
Yeah, okay, I'll cede.
Well, just because it's a different type of action sequence,
it is.
Right? There is gunplay, but it's not the full run and gun, big crowd that we have earlier. It's not the meticulously planned, almost perfectly executed heist we have at the start.
Yeah.
It's its own thing, which also just watching it in the 90s, it's like two men just running across LAX with guns. Like, I don't know, like
this is when people could still just walk up to the gate.
I was going to say, even just hop over the fence still.
Yeah,
like,
even in the 90s, this feels almost like a stretch, but at the same time, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But that final bit with just a couple of buildings way out at the end of the runway where you have not just the light, but also the sound of the jets landing and taking off, where it basically wipes out your ability to hear.
Yeah.
And then the lights come on and off, and it blinds, and it casts the shadow, the fatal shadow. That whole sequence was great, partly because in a lot of these kinds of movies, I feel like you would have the actors like yelling at each other, like, turn yourself in, or come on, Macaulay, you can't keep this up for. And there's none of that. They don't say a word.
Because they've already said everything at the diner.
There's nothing else to say. Yeah.
Well, and like, so for the diner scene, right? And I'll save some of this for like plot or whatever, but like the production of it, De Niro and Pacino knew this was going to be a huge scene. And this is the first scene they've ever appeared in together at this point in history. Now, they were both in The Godfather.
Yeah, but they just never.
But they were not in the same scene
yeah.
because he was playing Vito Corleone as a young, so the time didn't make sense. So this is the first time they'd ever come together in a movie, and that was their first scene in a movie together.
Oh, that's cool.
And they knew this was going to be a huge scene, and so they wanted no rehearsing. So they did not rehearse the scene at all, right? Now, they obviously rehearsed on their own time, learning the lines.
Was that a first take?
No, I think they did multiple takes, and they combined the best of them. But what they what De Niro said, he and Michael Mann and Pacino all agreed. They were like, I don't want to do rehearsals. I don't want to run through this. I want this to happen because these two guys are going to be meeting each other in real life for the first time. So he's like, I want that like unfamiliarity with like how he's going to react, how he's going to ad lib to play into it.
Yeah.
And I think it did. And so when they shot it, what they did was they set up basically 2 cameras.
Yep.
And then just rolled the whole time.
Yep.
Because they did have some ad libs back and forth. And they did the scene, I'm sure, a few times. But like, they didn't have like okay, we're going to shoot all of his lines because we've rehearsed it. It was a very like captured in the moment type.
I mean, well, and it shows too.
It's much better. Yeah, it comes off much better than say a film where De Niro can't be here today, so Pacino's going to do his lines, or just going to have a dude with a dark wig just back to the camera. And then tomorrow we'll get De Niro's lines, and we'll have Pacino out with the second unit shooting something else or whatever. Like it's always going to hit different when they're both there and they're working off each other.
So for spectacle, I think for me, the only thing that detracts for me, and it's not really a detractor, it's just a sign of the times, is there's a lot of 90s lighting in this movie. And what I mean by that is there's definitely a style of film lighting that happened in the 90s that was heavy on backlights.
It is, yeah.
And it's present. And it's not like it's a detractor because all movies did it during this era. You watch just about anything from the early to late 90s, that whole era.
Well, it pins it within that. Like as soon as you see that, you're like, either this is a 90s movie or this director loves 90s movies.
Right. Yeah. So it has a stylistic look to it because of the lighting. But other than that, I think
I don't think that dates it too much though.
It doesn't. It's just not something you see anymore. Like nowadays when you have backlighting, it's very subtle, it's very soft. Or it's the opposite. It's extremely harsh and you have a lot of dark shadows.
Silhouette, yeah.
This was like the faces are well lit and there's a strong like upper light highlighting the hair.
It gives you definition of the character from the background.
Yeah. And that's the only thing to me that stands out as like any kind of like if I was going to point at something and be like, well, and there's a couple of like blue screen, green screen shots that like don't look great when they're like overlooking the city.
Yeah, like for the first time, whenever him and Edie meet, that like I was like, ooh, that's not some great.
Yeah, again, I'm not sure why.
Looking, like you're in LA.
Yeah,
just drive up to the mountains right there, man.
Yeah. I have no info on why that happened.
There's a phenomenal shot. Sometime in the middle of the film, where basically I think it's Neil and someone else are getting in their cars, and it's shot down the 4. Where you can see the highway like going down, and they're like just kind of like on a hill. I can't remember exactly like who the characters were, but man, that shot, like I was like, ooh, yeah.
Well, another thing that Michael Mann wanted to do when he was like scouting locations was he was like, I want to show a completely different side of LA. I don't want to revisit any of the the typical Hollywood stuff that you see when you see a movie set in LA. So the people that were doing the scouting, like intentionally, like the overpass that they pulls them over under, they were I can't remember where that's at. It's only the outskirts of like LA. It's not somewhere they normally shoot.
Right.
The pit bull fighting ring was actually a legit cockfighting ring. That they like closed down and then redid it to make it look like a dog fight. So it was already had like the ring set. So that wasn't like, let's get our production designer in here. It was just like, put some dogs in the cages and we'll shoot tomorrow, type thing. And so they found like some just pockets of LA that were like really obscure to shoot. So I think that,
man, 90s LA is dystopian.
Oh yeah. But I think it lends to the spectacle of it. It gives you like that weird, like, this isn't for someone like me, I've never been to LA and I don't live there, obviously. Like, it doesn't feel like the normal LA you see in a lot of movies.
Well, it avoids the glamour and the glitz, right?
Yeah.
And LA is a big sprawling space, and it's really I don't say it's easy because you have to cross the city, but there are all kinds of different pockets within just that, what is it, like a 30-mile radius where it's not considered travel pay or whatever.
Oh yeah, I can't remember what it is.
Whatever it is that basically dictates where you can shoot. So you can find a lot of different stuff. A lot of movies don't bother. They go to the places they know.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that we got to see a lot of different spots. Like
it definitely it didn't feel like it was like the normal LA, which I mean, obviously they did a good job with that.
That overlook shot could very easily have just been at the observatory, and I would have accepted it and said, yeah, this is LA, but I've been there. I've seen this. I don't need to keep seeing this.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, if anybody has anything else to talk about spectacle, I think we can move on to performance.
Performance.
Let's go on.
Do you have trivia for performance?
I do, actually.
Oh, what do you know?
So the actors visited Folsom Prison to talk with actual bank robbers to kind of get into the mindset of like, what is it that, you're thinking about? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah. It's a little patronizing to do that, but yeah.
It is, but it was kind of like
I mean, you got to go to the source at the end
There's
of the
other
day.
layers. Listen to how crazy Michael Mann is, okay? So Ashley Judd also spoke to the wives of a bunch of people who were in prison or who had been former bank robbers to kind of get an idea of like...
Still a little patronizing.
A little bit, yeah.
So Michael Mann found out about a restaurant in L.A. where mob members actually eat on one night, and on the next night, cops eat there and their whole families. Very similar to the scene in the movie, right?
What?
He found out about this, and he got the cast that were on like the heist crew to eat with the mobsters.
Oh, my.
And then he got the cast, Al Pacino, the people playing cops, to eat with the cops.
Oh, both sides of that absolutely loved that moment.
Oh, I'm sure. And just to pick up on how they talk to each other and how they handle themselves, their speech patterns and that kind of stuff. Which I'm like, first off, that's buck wild that in the 90s that there was just a restaurant that knowingly had the mobs got Tuesday nights, cops come in on Wednesdays.
Criminals are over here. The cops are aware of it, and they're just like, we're good.
Yeah, and so, but he was able to get them in there. It sounds like he has crazy connections with not only the
mob.
Well, that's also police.
Well, you know what he was doing? He was doing all these ride-alongs with the cops.
Yeah.
And the cops were like, man, we're always there on Thursday. We don't go there on Wednesday. Nah, man, mob's there that night.
So another thing they did was the actors, they have this dude that in the special features, he's like silhouetted out. So I don't know like what his deal is.
What happened?
If he's inside like witness protection or if he's like a informant or whatever. But he was basically their heist trainer. And he got all the actors to put on disguises because they're obviously famous actors.
Yeah.
And they literally cased a bank for real. They went in, they all like had jobs, like you look for where this is.
That's cool.
And then that dude took their information and robbed the bank. And that's why he's silhouetted out. He can't know.
But he was like, he wanted them to approach it as if you were really going to rob this place. What would you look for? What would you do?
Yeah.
So that when they got to the main heist, if you watch, like when
they're looking at where they need to look.
They're checking the way they handle people, the way they all of them were like, it was surprising because we walked in and I just started asking for a bank loan, and while I'm asking, I'm just looking around counting cameras and stuff. He goes, and no one like batted an eye. Like everybody was just like, yeah, here you go, hit this, and like so all of them came away with it like, holy cow, like you can just case places. Like,
oh yeah,
holy cow! And so I thought that was really interesting. So
I wish we had gotten more of that prep in the movie itself.
Sure, yeah,
it would have been nice
if we had like dropped. Again, we're gonna go into plot here, but if we had dropped a couple of side plots and built more of that up, just to really pay off all that work, that would have been cooler too.
But to see how it enhanced their performances, how did you feel about the performances, Steven?
Well, so I really felt like Pacino and De Niro obviously get the lion's share to do here.
Carry the film.
They carry it. And they have to because we have all this other stuff going on, but no, outside of kind of your Kilmer stuff, no one else
he didn't really get that much either.
But
he didn't get a whole
lot.
That
at least gets some play because it plays off of De Niro.
Yeah. Yes.
His character, Neil. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm going to come up with his name. But it kind of plays it because he's kind of playing like Overwatch with it as well.
Yeah.
Like he's crashed at his place or whatever. Like, what's going on?
You get the feeling that Chris is like his like number 2 guy.
Yeah. So the two of them have to carry it because they are the main piece.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, if you're like, hey, I'm going to write a drama and I need 2 actors to really carry it. Well, let's get Pacino and okay, we're done. We've managed it, right?
Yeah.
Like this feels kind of like a slam dunk choice.
Yeah.
Maybe at that time when we're doing Heat, maybe it was like, well, because obviously they've never been, in a scene together. Maybe at that time it wasn't obvious. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels in this day and age, it feels obvious.
Right. Yeah.
Andrew?
So I actually thought Diane Venora as Justine, basically Al Pacino's wife, did a fantastic job.
Third wife.
Third wife.
Yeah.
But yeah, she did really, really well.
Yeah.
Just because like she was, every time that he would come home and they'd have, hash it out or whatever, you really could tell that they had some level of chemistry, but the chemistry that you want out of that kind of interaction.
The negative chemistry.
Yeah, the negative chemistry.
It felt real.
It did,
it did.
Especially the scene where he comes home and she's like, I cooked dinner 4 hours ago. And he's like, I got 3 bodies, on the side. I'm sorry if the chicken's
overcooked. Or whatever.
And he like trails out, and it felt like, ooh, this feels like I'm in a room with someone having a real argument.
This argument's been going on for years.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then especially whenever he comes the second time they have it out where, he's like, oh, well, we can talk about, my day, right? And, I can tell you, like, well, this person, killed blah, 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 blah.
Put a baby in a microwave.
Baby in a microwave.
Yeah. And then like you can just see on her face just the absolute mortification of just like, okay, yeah, this is not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah. This is not. Yeah.
I'm not getting through to him, and also I don't really want to get through to him.
Yeah.
I love the scene. Granted, it was also painful, but the final, not the final scene with them, but where we have Ralph. So he comes home and she's like, "Oh, where are we going?" She's like,
"Sit down."
We're not. Like, well, what? Where are you going? I'm going out. And then obviously we play off that, and we have Ralph, and because like you immediately like the dude's like, "Oh, like I didn't know, like like you feel he's like, just sit down."
Yeah, you're not gonna watch my TV.
Yeah, well, it's like you can you can go out with my wife, whatever, be in her ex-husband's house, but you're not gonna have the TV. And he just like starts taking it out of the TV, and it's like, yeah, he's pissed.
Yeah. So I think obviously with Pacino and De Niro, and the way it was probably written has a lot to do with it, but their performances sell it too. That they're very similar in some regards, but wildly different in others. Where like De Niro and Neil,
that's what the characters need too.
Yeah,
so
he's very like, I have my little code of ethics. I stick to it. I'm straight business. Yep. I do this. And Pacino is like this bombastic.
He will do whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Which a fun fact about that was it doesn't make it in the movie, and it was in early versions of the script, but it never got shot. But one of the reasons that Pacino's character as Hannah is so like just unhinged is because
cocaine.
He was supposed to in the early one. He was supposed to be doing bumps of cocaine to get him through
the day
because he just got so much going on. But they cut it from the later versions of the script in the movie. But Pacino already had it in his head of like, I want to play a dude that's like
hyped up,
manic almost. Like there's just moments where like when he kicks the TV out of the car, and like when they're interrogating Harry. Is it Harry Shearer? I'm trying to think of his name.
Azaria?
It's Hank Azaria. Yeah, not Harry Shearer. He's another voice in The Simpsons. Yeah. Different Simpsons voice. Hank Azaria. And he just like screams at him.
Yeah.
It scared Hank Azaria to death because he didn't know it was coming. So obviously those two guys are going to do a lot of performances. Yeah. But I think like you look at someone like Dennis Haysbert, right? Yeah. Like that scene in the diner with his wife where she says she's proud of him and he almost like tears up and he's like, why are you proud of me? And it's just like this heartfelt like, oh, my heart.
Well, and then you just feel bad because that the second that Danny Trejo out of nowhere is like, oh, I can't do this.
As soon as they set that line up, like, man, they are setting him up so they can just rip this down. Yeah. Like, come on.
Yeah. Like, because that because he hasn't been like, he is just there for ends to a means for them, basically, and he's going to die.
Yeah. Something's going to go. Like
something's going to go wrong.
I wasn't sure that he was going to die, or if like at that point, because I didn't know where we were going, if he was going to be the one that he gets rearrested, right? This is where it falls back apart. Then his wife leaves him, whatever, right?
Yeah. And I thought all the supporting cops, like Wes Studi and his name's Ted Levine. You've seen him in a bunch of. He's a character actor.
He's in every. The
cop. Other detectives did a really good job too of just like. It's like they're normal police. Yeah. And Hannah is just like this next level, so they're just like trying to keep up. And he's like, I need this, I need this, I need this. And they're like, all right, cool. But Pacino has that like, he delivered it in such a way that it's like, he's that guy that when he says this is what we need, everyone snaps to it because they know he's probably right. Yeah. And he's like playing 4D chess over here and we're just like reading the rules to checkers,
Jon Voight was okay.
He was all right.
I mean, like, I don't really understand
his
Jon
Voight in most movies.
The role was just a plot device.
Yeah.
He was like, well, we needed this to happen. Well, send in the fence. We need this to happen. Send in the fence. The fence knows it. Really?
So originally, Michael Mann sent the script to Jon Voight and said, I want you for this character. And Jon Voight's response was, there's a lot of people that would do a better job with this. And Michael Mann goes, yeah, but then we wouldn't get to work together. And Jon Voight was like, all right, I'm in.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like at some point, you're just like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Also, Amy Brenneman, who played Edie, when she was sent the script, she hated it. And she turned the movie down. And so Michael Mann requested a lunch or something.
Go out to her house,
let's talk
to box.
Yeah. And he goes, why did you hate my script? And she was like, everyone's detestable. There's no morals. Yeah, there's too much blood.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's why you're perfect for Edie. because that's her character.
Yeah.
She's the only one who's above all this stuff. Like
outside
she's just
of
a graphic designer.
Yeah, like she's
Andrew's like, I resonate with this person.
I feel seen.
Surrounded by all these people with no morals, and I'm just a graphic designer.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that was an interesting thing that she was like, I hate this script, and he was like, that's why you're perfect for Edie, because like you're the only one that's like not so sucked into this like life or whatever.
Yeah,
I did like of what we got of it, right? You know, Val Kilmer and Ashley Judd's characters, and like that separate relationship drama, like the bit where they're like screaming at each other in the house, and he breaks something, and you hear the kid crying like in the back. It's like, oh, this is like, again, this is really uncomfortable.
This feels like I'm watching a real fight. Yeah.
Also like to leave this as well.
Like, can we just like go outside, please?
Right.
That's great.
That's what like you're like friends like finally get you to come over, and then like this is going on, and you're just like, I would really can we play outside? I don't want to play Nintendo anymore.
Yeah, I had a friend when I went to spend the night with him as a kid. His parents argued like not like that. They didn't throw TVs at the wall or anything, but they just fought like cats and dogs, and that was just their natural.
Yeah, that's their natural state.
Which as I got older, I was like, oh, that's just how they are. But as a kid, from parents who like really didn't argue, I was mortified when I would go over there and they'd be screaming at the top of their lungs about stuff, and I'm like, I would like to go home, please. Is there any performances you didn't like or thought could have done better?
I mean, honestly, I thought everyone did really well.
My biggest complaint is that it's such a huge ensemble cast.
Yeah.
That I almost wish some people weren't in it, just because then we could justify having more time for the other people.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like
we're
doing subtraction through addition, where we kept packing people in, that it's like, man, there are so many names and faces I recognize. I wish some of y'all weren't here so I could just focus on these other, like the other performances could just, like all of y'all are capable of putting out hot fire.
Yeah.
And we're only going to get so much from everyone on the cast, you know?
So
that's valid.
Yeah. So like, this is more of a plot thing, but I didn't like Natalie Portman's role in the whole film, mostly because she's essentially just a plot device for him and his third wife,
right?
To get back together, and but like reconcile.
They don't.
They don't.
They agree to disagree.
Yeah. Like it's, but there's some level of reconciliation there at the end.
Yeah. Well, I think.
Acceptance.
If
I think
this movie,
acceptance.
Maybe acceptance.
They accept that the two of them are on parallel paths, not crossing paths. Yeah.
I think if this movie had been made now, they would have obviously either cut that entirely, or they would have given it the weight it needed.
Yeah,
to struggle with like.
Yeah, it just popped in there.
Yeah, because I think she needed just maybe one or two more scenes to really get like
to really drive home that she's struggling with this.
Yeah,
like this is not just like a thing that happens at the end, and we don't know. There could be some stuff on the editing room floor that
absolutely
they may have shot that. But I agree that one.
We'll get into that.
She wasn't a bad act. Like now,
Natalie Portman's great.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we needed maybe just a little bit more in there.
I also do want to shout out the guy that plays Waingro. You know,
because he's a sleaze bag.
So the fun fact is he went to jail for real in like the early aughts. I can't remember when it was, and everybody in prison called him Waingro because everyone had seen Heat. You know? And he was that greasy guy from Heat. It's like, wow.
Yeah, he was definitely one of those characters where every time he was on screen, I'm like, this guy.
Yeah, this dude.
Yeah. Let's go Slick.
Yeah, Slick.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. So, what did everyone think about the score?
Yeah. Well, do you have any trivia for the score?
Not a whole lot of trivia on the score. The only thing I was going to say is that there are two Moby songs in the movie.
Oh, really?
And they both play. One is during the diner scene.
Boy,
and
I missed this.
I know, I did too.
Went right past me.
One is during the diner scene, and one is during the end when Hannah kills Neil.
Yeah.
And those are the both times they play. And like they reached out to Moby specifically. And this is 95, so I think this is
like peak Moby.
Well, I think right before Moby was
right
like big.
Oh,
okay.
Because it was like 97, 98 was like Moby's time. So this was like
it's the time of Moby.
He was just some weird music dude in LA. You know what I mean? But I will say this is the first time I realized that those were Moby songs.
Yeah.
I think both songs work in those scenes. Like they're kind of like atmospheric and just kind of weird.
Well, that's their style.
They're not obvious. They're not like, you know, it's not dubstep. It's not Skrillex. It's Moby, you know. But that was about the only thing I had with score wise. The other thing was the composer. He took a bunch of time and money before they started to do just experiments with sound. So he got like a bunch of like 30 guitars in a room and detuned them all slightly and had them all play like one note just to hear like what it would sound like. And he like
this is definitely before like Shepherd tones got really big.
Yeah,
and like obviously Shepherd tones have existed for a long time.
He was trying to find a way to get that feel.
Yeah.
What is a Shepherd tone?
A Shepherd tone is basically a tone that goes up and down at the same time.
Yeah.
To where it creates tension. So if you've ever watched the movie Dunkirk, or if you ever listened to the soundtrack from Dunkirk, it is just Shepherd tones the movie.
Shepherd tones top to bottom.
Yeah.
But he did a lot of weird stuff. Like he put metal strings on a cello, and which weird stuff to. And so when they came to write the score, he was like, I have like 18 experiments over here that I've done.
Yeah.
Which do you like? And then they kind of made the score from there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Other than that, what did you guys think about the score?
I just mentioned it, but it reminded me a lot of Dunkirk, which I like that track, especially for this kind of film, to where there's not, and they actually they did really well with the lack of music during like action scenes, where it's just, hey, here's some gunfire, and we're just gonna go.
It would take away from that
it would.
specifically.
It would just like pow, 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 pow.
Yeah.
No, like, you don't do that.
You don't need it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just police sirens and pacow, pacow, and you're done.
Pacow, pacow. The only pieces of the soundtrack that, again, it kind of dates it a little to the 90s. There's a couple of songs that have kind of a very 90s feel. They're like, it's mostly during like the, relationship interactions between people. There'll be like some music bed playing that's like fine and it fits the scene, but it definitely has like this is 90s, just people talking in a room music.
Yeah.
But the high stuff and like the tension building, score, I like a lot.
It did a good job. Yeah.
Now, I will say the finale, right, when you have kind of the acceptance between the two opposing forces, that music cuts in, and like when that hit, which at that point I was also kind of like, oh, get on with it already. Like, get me out of this movie. But that part hit, and I was like, this would be a really emotional piece if I was committed to either of these people, but I'm not.
Well, I think that's kind of the
I'm the opposite. I was committed to both, and I was like, I don't know who I want to live.
Well, but that's the thing, though. These are characters that are not meant to be likable.
No,
these are flawed.
But you can
people.
you can be invested in them, Ryan.
Yeah,
as the test case here.
Yeah,
but like the music is definitely appropriate for that. Of hey, you have emotional investment in these characters and this whatever you want to call this relationship.
Yeah.
But for me at the time, because I was thoroughly disconnected by that point, when it hit, I was like, boy, like if this was something else, this music would hit really well. It's designed properly for what they're trying to do. It just at that point for me,
it didn't work.
They've lost me, I guess, at that point.
I guess I can see that. I did like the because the whole point or basically the whole culmination of this final moment is, if you have 30 seconds, you need to be able to walk away from it. And you can see Neil's character just like going over every possible outcome. He's like, the only way to do this is if I leave.
And I didn't time it, but I'm pretty sure from the moment he sees Hannah at the end to when he walks and turns is exactly 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
to reinforce that thing he keeps saying,
Yeah. We'll get into that when we get into plot.
Yeah, we're veering into plot. But the thing I'll say about that song at the end there too, that like to me, it's like it reflects to me the idea that Hannah sees a lot of himself in
absolutely.
Neil.
After the diner scene,
they
are very similar. They've just chosen different paths,
right?
With the personality or their approach to things, however you want to look at it.
All right, well let's go into plot. I think we've talked about the score.
Sure,
we've been mentioning plot throughout. So, what do you guys think about the plot?
I actually thought like there wasn't any. I'll say like plot holes that I noticed that like.
So, I would not call it plot holes.
Yeah,
but I definitely had a couple of
plot
moments
conveniences
in the movie where, because kind of like Neil and Edie, right, where he kind of goes against his principles.
He does,
and I was just kind of like, I had a moment where I was like, did I miss something between the two of them?
It didn't feel that they had a really deep connection away initially,
right? Yeah, because like I really felt like I like blinked and was like, did he have some like deep moment where he like was like, this is the thing I break principle on? Because I'm not sure what's going on.
I think it's just the first person he's ever let himself get
let someone get close
involved with.
Yeah.
I would imagine, and I'm extrapolating here, but most the women in Neil's lives have probably been Just flings. Yeah. So this is probably the first person that he's ever had to even think about, like, could I leave this in 30 seconds? And I think you see that in that scene, after their first date when like he's getting up early and he's leaving and she's still sleeping and he's just looking at her.
And then he brings the glass of water.
Yeah.
And then he leaves.
It's like that moment. It's like subtle, but it's like, oh wow, there's something
here.
Something's happening and changing in his moral compass. Because I think that's the difference in him over the course is you see him go from being so like you got to drop it in 30 seconds at the front to like slowly kind of betraying that. Because I feel like the Neil at the front of the movie would not have gone back for Wayne Grove at the end. I think he would have been like,
you constantly see the betrayal once like the wall comes down. You start seeing it. Again, this kind of plays into the idea of I think if we could have spent more time with that, we could have really had something like kind of the slow struggle or succumbing to the idea of like this is the first woman that's like not that I've chased, but she came to me,
right? And
I don't know how to handle this, and now like I'm kind of betraying my principles that I've lived on for this and the consequences, right?
Right. Sorry.
No, I was done basically.
Okay. Yeah. I also didn't really like the Edie's kind of like turn is kind of Stockholm syndrome at the end.
Bro, this was Revenge of the Sith. Palpatine, join me, Anakin. Why? Because you should. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, like
good point.
It felt,
you make great points.
It felt pretty weak at best.
Yeah, I agree
was
with
just
that.
I was like, but this doesn't make any sense. Like, why? Like you clearly have like a
some huge
vomiting reaction to this kind of revelation, but then you're like, yeah, I guess it's fine.
Yeah, I think a lot of that. I think they tried to tell in like subtext, and it worked to a degree, but they needed another scene.
You needed
or
more time
to like
something
for it to work. Yeah.
And again, that may be a little bit of it's a film of the time. There was a lot of stuff that happened in the 80s and 90s that was just like, and then she decided to stick with him because that's how women are. Like
he's a good guy at heart,
right? Man. Yeah, So I wonder if in a modern setting that would have been rewritten or reworked.
Yeah.
Obviously, So I think that's another thing that I agree is a
or even if
flaw.
it's like if we had gotten a little more into like she's afraid of him, right? The first time she ran away from him, he ran her down,
right?
Dragged her back, and then he's like, "If you want out, there's the door." And she's just like, "I don't trust. You'll shoot me in the back. I don't trust that."
Yeah, because
right?
I know who you are now.
Yeah, like if we gotten more of that, again, it's one of these things where it's not that they did us wrong. It's that they did us so well. You should have given me a little more.
Nice. That's what she said.
Hey.
Wow. What are we back in the 90s?
We are now 95, baby, which was way before that was a phrase. Okay. So I thought plot-wise, obviously there's a few of my scenes that are some of my favorites. The one is when they're doing the stakeout and he walks away.
That was a great, like that whole,
the tension.
We've already gone into it, but it's worth going into it again because it's not just the tension between the two of them, but the tension with Vincent and like the beat cop or riot squad dude behind him, and then the captain, right?
Yeah,
man, I was actually fully expecting Hannah to just turn around and beat the snot out of that kid.
After he sat down and bowed out the wall. Yeah,
that scene, the diner scene, we got to talk about that one.
Yeah.
I think that's such a crazy conversation and such a like. And I've seen so many people like, this is so unbelievable. And I'm like, but that's the one thing that's based on like a true story.
Well, that's the thing though. I actually don't think it's that unbelievable.
I don't either. So when I see people complain about that, I'm like, but cops can't just arrest people.
They can.
Dude, let me back up. Hold on.
They can. They just can't hold on.
They can't hold on to them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. You can't just arrest somebody because you think they're going to commit like a bank robbery.
Well,
you know
and they already laid us the groundwork again with the earlier stakeout, where it's like, well, let's go get him. Well, for what? Breaking and entering? Like, what are we accomplishing here?
Yeah, nothing.
He needs to actually hit something, and then he's not getting that hit, and it's like he has a moment of, I need to get deeper in his head. It's like, well, how do I get deeper in his head? I need to talk to him. And this is absolutely something that character, that kind of the manic, borderline impulsive.
Yeah. Well, it's like he's so relentlessly in pursuit of his goal of catching Neil that he's like, I'll do anything.
Well, of catching him in the best possible solution to lock him up.
To put him away.
Yeah, to put him away.
Right.
Because he is a lifer cop.
Yeah.
And that whole scene, like, that is so telling of his character of like, I know that you're the bad guy, and I'm telling you that I know, and I'm going to catch you.
Coming for you
to your face.
Well, and like, there's so many like interactions back and forth. Like when he's like, you know, are you one of these guys that's just looking to be, you know, busted back up?
Yeah.
Put back. He's like, do I have, you know, a tattoo across my chest and look like I'm, you know, da da da?
Yeah.
He's like, no, you do not. And he's like, exactly. And then like the neither one of them relent, but it's not an aggressive scene.
No, it's not.
And that's the thing that I think everybody was confused about in the 90s, because they thought it was going to be this like battle royale head to head between.
Well, because both characters know exactly what the other one's about.
100%. Yeah.
Because they know each other. They know themselves.
Yeah, they know themselves, and they know the type of person that is pursuing them. And especially like it shows just the scene before that, whenever they're at the dock and like pointing at just like random stuff
that's
to get
another
them
one
to
of my
come out. I
favorites.
love that. That was great.
But to wrap the diner scene up, I do like at the end when they start talking about their dreams, and it's like they're able to cut loose with each other.
Yeah.
And have that like there's that weird like intimacy that you get with a stranger.
This is the connection that neither of them are getting, or that Vincent isn't getting with his wife.
I wouldn't say this to anybody, but I'll say it to this
guy. Because essentially, like, that's the only type of person they can connect to.
Right.
Because, you know, Hannah is such a deep, involved cop. Like, that's his life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And robbing banks and being a criminal is Neil's life. And they have that similar obsession. It's just about different things and happens to be completely opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the scene at the docks is another great one, too. Where
that was good.
They
He's like, oh, these guys are good.
And they get out there and they're looking around and they're just all out there. And he's like,
metal.
I'll tell you what he's looking at. The LAPD. We've just been made. And I remember the first time I ever saw this, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then it pans back and he's got that long lens. Just check out.
And the dude, he like starts waving to just anything, any direction.
But like Hannah being the one that figures it out is like, that's again indicative of his character versus the other detectives of like, he understands what he's doing. Like he's got us. Like we've just been made, you know. Another scene, like, so the first, the armored truck heist at the front, right? Another thing there with like the plot that I like that you kind of mentioned earlier is like when Wayne Grove goes AWOL and just shoots the one guard, immediately they just shoot the other two. And then the scene immediately following that when the police are like investigating it, you know, and he's going through what happened. And Pacino is just like diagnosing it. Like,
it's just dialed in.
This guy, this happened, and then they didn't even hesitate.
Yep.
This is a professional crew.
Yeah.
You know, this is who we're dealing with. Which, fun, tiny fact, all the extras in that scene that were like doing the investigation were actual detectives and forensic officers.
Oh, so they were doing like real
so like,
forensic.
what they were doing is like what they did day to day.
Oh,
so
that's
they didn't
cool.
hire an actor and say, do something like this. It was all those people
doing their job.
Hold a test tube upside down and swirl it a little.
Right, yeah. So that's why, if that looked very accurate to anybody watching the movie that is a forensic pathologist or a detective, it's because they were real.
Yeah. So let's we're kind of moving on into entertainment.
Hold on,
here.
I want to get one more.
Sure. One more plot. Here we go.
It's still it's still the entertainment bridge, right? But we talk about favorite scenes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The handoff, or the failed handoff between Van Zant's man and Vincent.
Oh, yeah.
Not Vincent.
That's a good
Neil.
scene.
Neil,
too.
yeah.
So it's funny because that's a really good scene, and it's in the middle of so much other stuff, it almost disappears, right? Like by the time you get to the end of the movie,
you just kind of forget it happened.
Right. You remember the starting heist, you remember the big heist, and you don't catch, because again, it's the whole like, they're super planned out, super meticulous. They cover all the angles. Because when I saw the pickup truck come in, right?
Yeah.
And they had said, like, one man, go alone. You know
like,
he's going to kill him. And I was like,
yeah.
Well, the only reason you brought a pickup truck to this is you're either going to ram him or there's a dude in the bed.
Yeah.
And there's a dude in the bed.
There's a dude in the bed, yeah.
And then the response of when he gets called out, man on your right, and he just puts it in reverse. And
just backs that dude up against the truck.
I mean, that's straight up. Defensive driving's not the right term. But
no, aggressive driving.
Well, no.
But that feels like what would happen.
Yeah,
that doesn't feel like a movie scene that they blocked
out. No. This is an actual, like, in a course that they give people who may be, like, kidnapped, right?
Yeah.
If you are driving the car, you are in charge of the biggest weapon you possess. It's the car.
Yeah.
And they use it exactly like that. It pays off, although him driving straight at him, shooting the pistol through the windshield was a little like, okay, guys, come on.
It's
you were
still
doing
Hollywood.
so well.
It's still Hollywood.
But
the sound of the gun Val Kilmer was shooting, again with the sound effects, so huge.
But that whole sequence was great, and also it felt like, again, we're back to the whole like, these guys are professionals.
Mm-hmm.
They set, like, we're dealing with the high roller who's like laundering money for drug cartels.
Yeah.
We've done a hit on him, maybe not intentional. I can't totally remember if it was intentionally that.
So they stole his bonds in the
but that was
armored
and
truck.
that was what
the
they
armored
went
truck.
for.
And they were trying to sell them back to him because they were like, insurance covers it. And then this guy
you get your insurance, and then you get these back from us, and we get a percent basically.
Yeah.
So then you don't have to come after us to get revenge, but he's going to get revenge anyways because that's who he is.
Because pride,
Right.
Yeah.
hubris.
But they understand.
I love how he got it at the end too.
Oh, yeah. It's like,
yeah.
how would I know? Click, 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 click.
Well, what use are you to me?
But
right?
that also led to my favorite scene right after the scene with the handoff is when he goes in that restaurant and calls him on the phone. And he's like, I am talking to an empty phone right now. And he's like, I don't understand. He goes, because there's a dead man on the other line.
But
he doesn't even say, again, like, that's the thing about Neil is it's that dangerous calmness of like, he's not like, because there's a dead man. He's like, because there's a dead man on the line. And then he doesn't even hang up slam it. He just touches the receiver.
He just clicks it down. Yep.
Clicks it down. And it's just icy. You know what I mean? Like, just the cool, calm, like, just this guy is donezo. Like,
yeah. Yeah, so I did want to throw that one in there because I felt like it really hammered home the understanding Neil has of like the underworld, right?
Yeah.
And also the meticulous planning. You know, they cover again all the angles. Like, what happens if the truck gets out? You're gonna be here with a shotgun,
right?
Right? Yep. Like final burst. Just put down as much as you can. We're gonna put it into this, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, entertainment.
Entertainment. Moving on in.
Steven, keep going. How were you entertained?
Okay, so we're gonna do a 180.
Here we go.
On this one. We're gonna bring in probably my biggest complaint.
Yeah.
And it was the whole attempted suicide sequence, right?
Sure, yeah.
Because one, I didn't know it was coming.
Hey, same team.
And two, like, it made, like, again, this is darker, grittier, really real. It made me physically ill. I took because I was watching on my iPad, I took my earbud out. Like by the time they got her to the hospital and they're doing like all the, I need saline, blah, blah, blah. Like I took my earbud out and I didn't look at it. I looked straight ahead and just kind of watched it in the corner of my eye until I could tell that we were past medical things happening. Basically, like the nurse comes out and says, she's through with surgery. And like I was back in at that point.
Yeah.
But I was physically ill.
See, I would have given you a heads up if I knew that was going to be.
That is the kind of thing I don't do well with.
Okay.
That also was one of the,
Sorry, I would have told both of you. That's nothing for me. I was like watching it like, okay.
Yeah, the second that it happened, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, and not because like I cared for the character.
Right.
It's just that is something that I was not prepared for at all in this kind of film.
Yeah.
And it completely threw off a lot of the pacing, I think, but then it also threw off just my entire cadence of the film.
Yeah.
Just because it puts into context a lot of other stuff, which we could have had a little bit more there, but like there was zero hints at it.
Right, yeah. And again, we don't know what's left on the editing room floor, but like it doesn't matter what ended up in the final film.
It was definitely one of those moments where I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, this is kind of okay, yeah.
It felt like an escalation, and again, I don't know. Maybe the intention is that that's how attempted suicides are.
It absolutely is.
It's not something you can easily forecast.
It's a realistic thing. Like they're so caught up in the problem between the two of them that she's sliding through the cracks.
They just overlooked.
Yeah, 100%.
But I mean, that whole scene, like when he like gets her out of the tub, I was just like, get the towels, get the towels, get the towels, get the towels.
Right.
Why are you not
getting the towels quicker?
Bellowing for help?
Right.
Get the towels. While I'm just like hunched over.
Well, and and I think that shows a lot to his character in the film.
Well, I mean, he's seen
he's
way
seen
worse.
He's seen this before, and he at least has an understanding of what needs to happen. He didn't call for an ambulance or anything. Like he literally just drove her there.
Yeah.
And in those kind of things,
and he's calling like for like I need a surgeon. I need this. I need that. We need to be doing again
he's doing what he does.
We've already seen him with Wangro's shenanigans.
Yeah,
where like he has dealt with so much horrifying thing that this isn't like something that breaks him as a character.
Yeah.
It just hits, I guess, a little closer to home, right?
Yeah. Right. Because he genuinely cares about this girl more so than her own father, like that they kind of allude.
Yeah.
And when I say it didn't affect me, I don't want to be like cold,
it's
like I was
callous.
No.
It's like callous.
But I've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, you've watched the film a lot.
Yeah. No, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
So we'll move it back.
Yeah.
Move it
pull back a little.
Okay.
So I did this still deals with a lot of death, but I liked a lot of the kind of like subtle nuances of like during like right at the beginning of the firefight before they kind of like get into the car and start driving off.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer kills, I guess, one of the other detectives that was near Hannah.
Yes.
And then like they cut away to him just like looking at what just happened.
Right, yeah.
And you can tell that one, just for his character, is like, these people are absolutely dead. I'm not going to stop at anything until they are done.
Right.
But just the amount of damage that was just caused, not even including anything that happens after this.
Right, yeah.
Of just like, these people have to go.
Right. Well, they are, again, when that switch flips.
Yeah.
They are dangerous. And that's like the thing he's been trying to like, that's why he's been so doggedly hunting them this whole time, I think, is you understand that. Like,
cause like up until that, like during the actual heist, when they're in the bank and everything like that, like they're wearing masks. They have no intention of killing anyone until something happens. And the second that it does, there is no hesitation.
No. And it's even like the branch manager or whatever, where he's like, give me the key. He's like, what key? Bam! Instant like punch to the face.
We don't have time for this.
Rip it off his neck. Like we're not here to play. I'm not here to jockey with you or whatever. Like I gave you an order, you do it, or I just do it without you.
Yeah.
Well, like when he jumps up on the teller thing and he's walking and he's like, "We are not here to hurt you. Your money is insured.
Yep.
Like we're here to rob the bank. Everybody do what they like." They're very like again.
Clinical.
The professionalism of a crew and the heist really shines through compared to a lot of heist movies where you see like there's always the wild card and the weak link.
Yeah.
And,
the wild card's already been kicked out of the crew. He's become the problem. Yeah.
So would you say overall you liked it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Now that I know that like that specific scene is coming and like where the story is going, it would definitely be a different experience the first time through because like both my wife and I were very much like whoa, like cool jets here, like we were not expecting this at all kind of thing. And like I can get through those kind of scenes, but it's definitely one of those where like I just wasn't
wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, so far off the radar because it didn't feel like that was that kind of film.
Right.
Which it's LA in the 90s,
sure,
like in a darker, grittier drama. Yeah, I get it. And that's it. All that does is really just hit home on just how realistic some of this film was,
right?
Because like you said, like that's kind of the whole thing about like attempted suicides and that kind of stuff is that sometimes there is no sign,
right?
You don't know.
And I have no trivia for this, so I don't know. But like this very well could have been a story that Michael Mann was told on one of the ride-alongs or by some other cop of like, I went home and XYZ happened, and he could have like put it in because it is what happens. And and again, for better or for worse with that scene specifically, that it was probably done in the script to like just drive home how like everything at his life is disintegrating and is falling apart, But I mean, obviously, I'll jump in. I'm biased. I enjoy the heck out of this movie. I watch it all the time. I agree. I think upon multiple viewings, you appreciate it more just because you kind of know the pacing and you know what to look for. And you start to see like subtle stuff. Like there's a lot of Pacino's acting, De Niro's acting with Edie, specifically Neil and her, when they're on the balcony, where it's just like facial expressions he'll make and he looks and you can see, it's almost like you can see the gears turning of like, oh no, I'm getting attached.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of, upon second viewing, you're catching that stuff that sometimes you don't pick up on it the first time through.
Yeah. And I don't want to like come in here and be like, oh, my entertainment, I didn't like it.
No, you're good. Yeah.
That, like, just that chunk. If we could just take that chunk out.
Right.
Like, you have three really good set pieces between the initial heist, the handoff, and then the bank heist, right?
Yeah.
That are just, they just go from as soon as, like, you're like, oh, something's happening here. Then it's like, again, the switch flips, right?
Yeah.
And it's just go. Those are great. And then tucked in the middle of it, we have all of this character drama that is pretty good stuff, culminated in kind of like your diner and then your face off on the runway, right?
Yeah.
So like there is a lot of good in this. Just that one piece got me really badly. So
that's completely valid though. I think too, when you look at it like in a modern lens, the movie overall, this would nowadays probably be a TV show. This would probably be like an
could be a
HBO.
TV show, yeah.
This would be like an HBO Max
episode,
12 episode, 8 episode miniseries. Probably if it was to be created today versus that, because there is a lot of character drama that I feel like they would have probably mined in a TV show.
Absolutely.
Well, it really feels, having watched this so close to having watched Kaleidoscope, it does feel like that is where some of Kaleidoscope's DNA is picked up from.
Yeah.
Because there we also talked about, like, right, it was a character drama that had a heist in it, which if you haven't listened to it, shameless shill, check out our Kaleidoscope episode.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty great.
So I think the biggest takeaway for this film for me, though, was people that make movies, please use the actual audio from your guns.
No
Seriously, like you're shooting blanks, like just let the report go through.
I have never watched the movie on my current surround sound system until this time, and it rips. it ripped
so hard.
And it's not even the low frequencies. Like the subwoofer was fine, but
like,
it's the treble. It's the ka-chika. And again, you can hear the echoing off the skyscrapers. But yeah, I agree. Every time I've seen it and you hear that gunfight, it sounds like a real gunfight.
It does.
Because it is. It's the actual audio.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, movie producers, audio editors, just use the real gunfire if you got it. Like,
put good microphones on set and capture it natural, you cowards.
Of course, nowadays a lot of movies they're not firing blanks. They're just holding empty.
Yeah,
and they're putting the CGI on it or whatever.
Which is unfortunate.
But
it is.
Still, go out in the real world and record the sound of a real gun going off and then add that in an ADR. It sounds incredible.
In the same environment, right? If you're in a downtown setting, you need to get in between a bunch of concrete and steel.
Because it really did change the...
It does. It really does.
And I kid you not, like that was the first time I've ever been truly impressed by audio in a film. Like, I mean, like I love music and everything like that, but the sound for this was just so far and above anything else.
It's crazy.
It was wild.
Again, I don't know what kind of audio editing they may have done in post. They probably overlaid a bunch of tracks.
There has to be something there, yeah.
Yeah, or EQ'd it a certain way, because maybe the actual natural raw sound is like fine. But like whatever they did with the actual blanks firing,
do more
great.
of that. Like,
it wasn't the low tones. It was all like the mid and high range.
The crispy, the rip. It just like ka ka ka. You're like All right. Well, if you have liked what you've heard and you'd like to support us further, we have a Patreon.
We sure do.
And on this Patreon, you can support us for the low price of $1, and our $1 tier gets you an insane amount of content. I got to say it.
Yep, you get guaranteed one bonus episode a month. You get to vote in our Patreon Picks episodes, which happens every couple months.
Yep.
Which means that is something that you will vote on, and then we will review.
Yeah.
You get to listen to it early, and then it will eventually be released into the mainstream.
Patrons get early access to it, and then it ends up in the main feed. And then, for that $1, you also get access to all of our previous bonus content. So not just that month, everything we've done so far. And we have some really good episodes. Steven, what's one of your favorite bonus episodes?
Oh, man. I got to go. Honestly, I still think Star Wars is the favorite for me.
Star Wars
really
is a good one.
Not me and Ryan just trying to fight each other over James Bond openings.
But see, the difference,
which is a much more important topic, I think.
Right. I was going to say, the difference is, again, for that episode, I had nothing at stake, whereas Star Wars, I had something at stake, and I get to argue about it, right?
I see. Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff. So just to explain, if you can't tell, these are different formats than our normal episodes. We go off left field. We do a lot of wild, wacky stuff over there.
And if you're curious, if you want to try before you buy on that Patreon, we are releasing
15 minutes,
10 to 15 minute previews of some of those episodes. So you can have an idea, because again, it is different format. You can have an idea what's out there.
Yeah, scroll back through our feed and you'll see the Patreon preview episodes. And it's like a little snippet, just a taste, an amuse-bouche of what you'll get.
The first taste is free.
Yeah. But if you can't afford the $1, we totally understand. We would love for your support in other ways. You can really help us out by leaving a review, whatever podcast program you use.
Tell your friends, your cat.
Tell your friends.
Maybe your dog. I don't know.
Like, comment, share our posts out there. Just help spread the word.
Just spread the word. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up for us. So until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Steven.
And every spoiler was intended. You want me to kick it off, Steven? Who should sound like an idiot first? Is what I'm trying to say.
I can sound like an idiot.
Who gets the idiot? But we need to just have a ball.
That's an idiot. Right on idiot on it.
And just pick it up, throw it to somebody. Be like,
whoever catches it.
Okay, if you want to bring the heat,
you want to bring the heat.